When I was in college, I raced bicycles. I did road biking and mountain biking. I was really into it, and I worked really hard. I trained really hard, but I wasn't, let's call it, talented. I wasn't a talented bike racer. Some people just born with it, and so I spent a lot of time in the pack, in the main peloton, and one of the most painful experiences, aside from just bike racing in general, is when the peloton would slow down, the front of the peloton would slow down or surge ahead and then surge ahead. And there was sort of this ripple effect where the first person would go and then the next person would go. And by the time it gets to the back, it's like you really have to slow down, and then you're basically at a stop, and then the person in front just sprints ahead and you've just got this huge gap, and that is not a good thing. You don't want space between you and the peloton, and this happens particularly when the road is really curvy or has really sharp turns. And this is, to me, what is happening right now with AI, big companies, and small or solopreneurs. I'm Josh Levine, a transformation executive helping teams learn to use AI together. I've spent the last 20 years paying attention to how work actually works, technology, culture, incentives, and the story we tell ourselves about capitalism doing what it's supposed to do. This is the audio version of my Substack. Go and subscribe, joshlevine.substack.com, working out in real time how AI is changing how we look for and do work, and maybe eventually what to do about it. This is the Job Shit Show. Today's question: why is your fiercest competitor now one person and four Mac Minis? In 1937, an economist wrote a paper called The Nature of the Firm. His name is Ronald Coase. And it is a defining paper. And the reason why is because he essentially asked, if markets are so efficient, why do companies exist at all? And the kind of basic understanding that we've drawn from that is that firms exist, companies exist because of coordination. Coordinating through the market is very expensive, searching, negotiating, contracting, and it's cheaper just to put all that inside. So if you think about a group that has an organization that has a design group, you can just go right to them. Or I don't know, like an IT group, right? So if you have a big enough to have an IT group or an HR group inside your organization, you can just communicate with them. And that's really the premise on which kind of these super scale organizations exist. And it's the tax, right? If you've ever worked inside of an organization, you know that there's just so much, I don't know, cognitive overhead. You get that, like, run it past legal so HR can sign off type of thing. And what's happening now is that for many, maybe not all, but for many firms, AI is actually on the outside collapsing that friction, the market friction, and enabling more things, more entities to work with each other simply, more in within more coordination. I read this article in the New York Times called "The Small Business Owners Managing Whole Armies of AI Employees," which got me thinking about this particular topic. There is the kind of the main persona. They did a bunch of interviews, but the main person inside in the article is a lawyer who essentially bought, when he learned about OpenClaw, which is the AI tool that actually, if you give it access to your computer, can do all sorts of things. It gets access to everything. And so he basically bought four Mac Minis, mounted them under his desk, and runs five agents, each with a different persona doing different things. So reading court notices, messaging clients in Spanish, drafting client counter proposals, and it just does it. And what I am seeing here is that the power of AI when you're an individual converts straight into the work. If you are a larger organization and you're trying to, and I'm sure people listening have this feeling, it's like there is too much friction for it to really be beneficial. And we're seeing that in the headlines now. And I keep talking about this every week, but there are articles and articles and articles about the CEOs and COOs and CFOs saying, hey, we're not getting the uptick from AI that we're hoping. But that result is not true for solopreneurs, for small teams. So when you're using AI inside of organizations, the tax that the kind of the organization's reason for being is what is protecting it from, I don't know, agents doing bad things, which they can do, but it's also preventing the AI from actually doing some incredible things, right? This friction is inherently built in. And that's not, and my hypothesis here is that's why there isn't that lift. So, what that means is the capability ceiling just got crowded. And so what we're going to see, and there's a lot of talk about this, but I felt like articulating the mechanics behind it is really interesting. But AI is enabling not just people to start their own businesses, but to be able to compete at a weight class above. So it used to be that scale, size of organization created this efficiency and this capacity to do the kind of work that smaller groups couldn't. But now that you have this incredible tool in AI and OpenClaw, these smaller organizations can now do more. And so if we go back to my Peloton analogy, the reverse, or what ends up happening, either I got dropped, which means I could never catch back up with the pack when it did that kind of like stretching out whip saw type of action, or if it's that tight zigzag, the people in front could only go so fast. There was actually a bottleneck, which is, I think, what's happening with these large organizations. And those people in the back, me, are essentially working together with a small group to catch up to the back of the pack. And that's what I think is happening, is that these large organizations that require so much coordination and incur so much overhead and tax are actually vulnerable. And that is why we're starting to see the fallout first from AI, and a lot of stories around big consultancies starting to fail, law firms starting to scale down, and maybe even ad agencies. There's plenty of other reasons why large firms are still valuable. Banks, you want that kind of stability. Organizations that have that create a large product. If you're thinking about like the chip manufacturers, those machines are so expensive. And so it's not that every business is going to be taken out by a small one, but I really am excited to see how much entrepreneurial heft is being thrown into the market. We're going to see all of these upstarts, and we're going to see them be able to do more and more. Now, that lawyer that was cited in the article, essentially, he's using it to be able to kind of automate or speed up his work. And he is, as he's entering entering the end of his career, he's using it to just continue to run his business, and he's able to take longer lunches, let's say. But for those who are motivated to be able to do more, to be able to create more with their time, you're going to see a huge, huge uptick in these kinds of businesses punching above their weight class. And I think that's what's interesting. And I wanted to talk about this because I wanted to make sense of what was happening with AI and why some people were finding real opportunities and some were feeling frustrated. And to me, the whole reason is because the premise of what a business is, in many cases, coordination, is now it can it doesn't it is the tax on top of the friction on top of the people doing the work. And if we can get that kind of coordination inside of an organization to be done by AI, then I think we'll get real lift. But until then, you've got these people and these systems and these processes that are required to slow down. So the question is, with time, will these large businesses gain efficiency and gain productivity with AI? And I don't know. But I do know that we're going to see a huge lift for entrepreneurs and small businesses and what they are now capable of doing and how they're going to start to compete for much less, create the same or more impact than even the largest firms. P.S. I did get third in the last race that I biked my senior year, and that was my best finish. I'm very, very proud of that moment. But man, it took a lot of work to do all that catch up. The Job Shit Show is brought to you by me and my company, Great Mondays, a change consultancy helping leaders of private companies elevate their teams, how their teams operate in an AI-driven world. You can learn more about me and my work at greatmondays.com. If you'd rather read or watch The Job Shit Show, like I said, you can find us on Substack, also on our Great Mondays page on YouTube. Just search for Great Mondays. And it would really help if you would recommend this show, send this episode to a colleague. Really appreciate it. It definitely helps new people find it. And if you're a huge fan, thank you. Please like and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else that you're listening to your podcast. This has been The Job Shit Show. I'm Josh Levine. We'll see you next week.